fourth, and the fifth meet, so when they get to sixth, and by the time they get to high school, they've now had all those years of inquiry-based science, hands-on projects with some great takeaways, lessons, group projects, materials. It's really a terrific program that everyone is very enthusiastic about. So the other part of this, I would say, big picture is the technology, getting more technology in the hands of our students. And a lot of districts, this comes out of school budgets and district budgets. Here it's really non-existent in the school budgets, putting a smart board in a classroom, putting more iPads into the schools. And we've been dependent upon going to the town every 3 years and asking for a large cap. It really should be coming. We should be able to replenish these things from year to year. So we did a great program last year. We brought a lot of iPads into the district, 5 carts, 1 for each school. We had some individual teachers that are using them so they can borrow the carts, but we want to increase that program. We want to get them in more hands and more students, and that's really a place where our hands are completely tied. When there's a reduction, we can't even really follow through with some of our vision in that respect. So, thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Good explanation. John?
Because I think the elementary schools have experienced that large cut. I think it really comes down to bare essentials, where student instructional materials, paper, pencils, and anything else you have to really plan and budget for, or use your parent organizations. We're in a very generous community where when we see something that we really believe we need for our students, we're comfortable going to our parent associations and asking for donations. But that's been the greatest challenge. The unfortunate part is that as a school, we are growing accustomed to. So the budget season, teachers are pretty limited at how far they want to look for their kids, because they know they can ask for it, but they only know they're going to get so much. So we really are staying to bare bones and only extending as needed.
Jerry?
Thanks, Sean. Mel?
I have a question related to technology, and maybe it can't be answered yet, and it's related to the new high school and middle school. How much money is allocated for technology in those 2 buildings, and would that mainly be for servers, wireless network, et cetera? We wouldn't be able to pay for individual things such as iPads or small notebook computers, et cetera.
Cliff or Kathy, either one?
Well, there's an amount of money that's been designated for FF&E, and technology falls into that category. We have not yet delved down into the details to identify exactly what the purchases will be. We will be able to buy some hardware. A lot of the money will go toward infrastructure. We will, of course, take the newer technology with us as we move into the new building, but there are still many unknowns. But along the lines of technology, Mr. Webster, I was just going to make a comment to piggyback on what Mr. Daly had to say. In our strategic budget vision that was presented to you earlier this year, it wasn't necessarily introducing new programs. It was more of a restoration kind of budget vision to get us back to where we were in previous years regarding the support that we're able to provide in the field of technology. Right now we have 1 integration technology specialist for the entire district to provide support to our teachers in the classroom. In the past, this district has upwards of 3 to 4 individuals. Those individuals have been cut back over the years due to budget reductions. So I suppose we're lucky that we still have 1, but we are woefully understaffed in that area. And another area that we're understaffed is the ability to provide technical support in technology. We have 1 technology technician to provide support. Our technology integration specialist provides supplemental support in that area. We have a data entry specialist, a data management specialist, who also provides some technical support in that area. But we're piecing together the technical support. So we really need to begin to build up that particular part of our department in order to make sure that we're servicing the new buildings when they come online. So not only is this a budget vision, but it's also a restoration of previous services that were available in this district.
Well, and I guess that gets to my catch-22 issue, where we really need to rebuild those departments, but yet it's going to be a difficult time finding the funds to do that.
And that's why level services budget is deceptive, because we have deficiencies that we're not
Right.
addressing. The only reason we call it level services, we had those deficiencies last year, the year before, and the year
Right.
before that. So we
So
just
they're
keep,
level
we keep carrying the
deficiencies. Right.
forward. To answer your question further, Mel, too, I think that with the committee we have in the Secondary School Building Committee, I think technology is going to be a very high priority as far as the FTEs. And
We can't tell you what the technology is because it hasn't been invented yet.
Right.
It's
True.
2
We
years
have
out.
2 years down the road, that's right.
true.
That's true, Cliff.
It'll be a high priority. Anybody else? Any other comments, questions?
I have one.
Cliff, go ahead.
What we have is a completely inadequate budget. We need a whole lot more money than this, but this is what's available, and we're managing to keep the lights on and the basic facilities running, and we need a whole lot more money than this, and we realize that it isn't available. So this is what we're working within. It's kind of like when your paycheck is $100 and your basic housing and food are $99.99, you live with it. There's no other place to get it. So that's what we're doing. But this is not what we need. And I think in the previous meeting, I made a comment that we need another $500,000 right now, but it isn't there. So we just going to have to push those things off as sort of like a deferred maintenance. And that's too bad, but that's the way it is.
And as Kyle mentioned, I think Steve O'Leary brought this up a year ago, there's a structural deficiency in the entire way that municipal budgets are developed and determined. So we literally are being subsidized by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and we're dependent upon them really for any type of growth that we have in our budget.
And they won't address the issues of adequacy because they don't have the money to satisfy it either. And there's just too many mouths to feed and not enough money to go around to do it.
And those casinos won't be up and running for at least 3 to 5 years, so. Deanna, I'm sorry.
I wanted to thank all of you for the collaborative work that you do with all the other town and state leaders, because I do think that you have a model that's very successful. I can tell you that with the work that I've done over the last few years with Stanford Children, I've talked about this model that leads to some of the successes that we've achieved together over the last few years, even though it's never enough. I could dance on the table. I won't, but I will say that we've never been in a deficit of $44,000. I usually come here depressed
Yeah.
and leave angry and disappointed and, feeling hopeless. And even though there are things that we need for sure, we're in better shape this year than we've
It's
ever
true.
been. And so long that I can't remember how long it's been. But we'll continue to fight. On Wednesday, we'll go to the State House again, and we'll ask for more, or to put a floor on the House Ways and Means money that we hope to get back. So the work does work for our kids, and that matters to me as a parent and a citizen, so I want to thank you for all of that. The question I have is related to what Mel just asked, and it's about the new schools and looking forward with a very enthusiastic vision. So you addressed the technology part, but what about those science labs that we've been waiting for forever now that we'll have them? How do you start to build the tools and the equipment that you need to do the hands-on technology? Is that built in anywhere, or do you have a separate budget? Is that going to be part of the capital budget that we'll see at some time soon along with the technology?
Kathy, you want to take a crack at that?
Sure. Again, those materials are included in FF&E, Deanna, and as we get closer to identifying just what we have, what we're taking with us, and what we need, we'll have a better sense of how complete our program will be. But there has been an allocation within that budget of the building project to purchase supplies and materials.
And I think, Deanna, you'll see that starting out, we'll be fully equipped. But it's a good question, because going forward, how are we going to maintain that type of efficiency and that type of equipment? But I think that the FF&E budget that we haven't nearly got to that yet as far as trying to divide that up for furniture and technology and science labs and things like that. But I don't think the problem's going to be when we move into the new schools. I think it's going to be trying to maintain it as we move forward. Sure.
When we were here a couple weeks ago, we talked about some of the things that parents and citizens would like to see. In particular, it's just always a sore subject, but with Principal Comp here, the doubles studies at 8th grade, are any of the projections and the numbers that you've used tonight built into
question.
I'll repeat the question. The question is, based on feedback that was received by our audience during the budget forum, it was indicated there's still a need to eradicate the study halls that are in existence at the middle school, in some cases double study halls. And so the question has been asked, is that been included in the budget projections for next year? And I had indicated, I think, at the forum that is a conversation that is taking place outside of the budget process. We're currently taking a look at enrollment. Principal O'Connell and I have had conversations about how can we make adjustments to what we currently have in order to eradicate those study halls. So it's not part of this budget that has been presented, but it is an ongoing conversation that is taking place right now, and we'll keep the public posted if we are able to come to resolution around eliminating those study halls for next year.
It's a concern of the entire committee as well, I think, the study
Yeah, I
halls.
would agree. I mean, my concern is the biggest number that goes up every year is our salaries, but we still have study halls. I don't get it. I mean, we go up $1 million a year, and we still offer study halls. I'd love to see a science program introduced if someone would sit back and say, I'm going to give you some money back. I don't need a 5 to 10% increase because I get my step and my raise. I understand it's collective bargaining, but I think we're shortchanging our kids on our increase. You can see it right on the screen for everyone. It's really frustrating. It's very difficult for me to sit here and stay quiet. So this is my little piece.
I guess we shouldn't get into negotiations, but Michael, if you look at the increases over the last few years, 3 years ago it was 1-point-something%.
Plus the step.
No, Mike, the whole entire budget went up I can't read the number, 1.3%, 1.4%, 3 years ago. 2 years ago went up 1-point-something%.
It goes up by $1 million every year.
No, it doesn't, Michael. The year after that, it went up 3.9%. This year, it's going up 5%. I mean, the teachers 3 years ago took nothing. And no step increases. So, I mean, it is the biggest issue. It is our biggest expense. But hopefully, Mr. Venezia and I will have a great negotiating session with our leadership group for the teachers, and we'll be able to come to agreement on a great contract.
I hear Mike's frustration. Again, it's going back to the salary schedule
Right.
and the step system in the first place, because, again, I don't know that anybody was more conservative with and any other teachers association was more cooperative in negotiating that last contract. I mean, literally, we gave them a half a step the first year and a 0% increase. And I think the second year it was 1%.
The step increases showed last year, they were anywhere between 3 to 5%.
Like, those are the step increases.
No, I
But that's
understand.
part of the salary schedule. It's two different things, and
But to me,
I don't
that's
mind
a-
discussing it, but until you
I
come up with an
understand.
idea that substitutes or replaces that salary schedule with something else that's going to result in a savings, I think it's kind of a waste of time to be throwing it around.
Well, I think Mike's point, it goes to what we've prioritized in our budget, which is to keep our personnel costs so that we maintain the same level of services that we're providing. That is a choice that we've made as a committee to prioritize that aspect. So not everyone on the committee might agree with that strategy. It is one strategy. One other strategy is to increase the expense budgets at the expense of increased classroom sizes and fewer study halls. There are other choices. We just didn't make those choices. And I think it's entirely appropriate to call attention to the fact that we've made a priority of making sure that our teachers are paid. And yes, they did take a bullet for us in their last contract. I am quite confident that as a community, we prioritize valuing that type of activity and rewarding it in some way. But it still remains. We have a lot of fiscal challenges, and it is a structural problem, not just a structural problem in the municipal side. It's a structural problem in how we pay staff. So it's all relevant and within scope.
Well, I share Mike's frustration because Kathy did have some proposals at the middle school, I think working with Principal O'Connell, including adding robotics for the older grades and some other proposals, and those aren't funded because we don't have any extra money, and those would have done away with a large percentage of the study halls, I believe.